this agreement
has expired. Senator Dastyari.
Thank you, Mr President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Abetz. I refer the Minister to the Senate report into the Future Submarine Project tabled yesterday. The report includes evidence from Dr John White, an expert chosen by the government to review the Air Warfare Destroyer project, who said, and I quote, "There is still sufficient time available with adequate contingency for the competitive project definition study to be carried out and to build the future submarines in Australia." Will the government listen to this expert advice and conduct a competitive tender process, including a project definition study for the future submarine project?
The Leader of the Government in the Senate, representing the Prime Minister, Senator Abetz.
Mr President, as always, the government will listen and take into account all the competing views and interests. At the end of the day, we will make a decision which is in the national interest. And so, Mr President, as my colleague Senator Johnston and the government weighs up all the competing requests and interests in relation to this important project, we will seek to ensure, number one, that our national security is protected to the highest level possible. Secondly, we will seek to ensure that Australian taxpayers get best value for money. And let's not forget that every single dollar that is spent on this project will need to be taken out of the pockets of our fellow Australians before we can spend this money. So let's make no mistake that we have a huge duty to the Australian taxpayer to ensure value for money. Now, Mr President, part and parcel of that whole arrangement will be to seek to maximise what employment opportunities might arise in relation to this project. But one thing we do know is that after purchase, the vast majority of jobs, in fact, are in the after purchase and in the maintenance throughout the lifetime of the particular project. And
Pause the clock. Minister. Minister, I'll pause the clock.
Excellent. Very generous of you. Very generous.
Minister.
Mr President, and isn't it a terrible reflection that Senator Cameron should interject that the only maintenance work would be cleaning the toilets? What a disgraceful interjection. How he plays down the work of our defence personnel who maintain these vessels from a weapons point of view, from a mechanical point of view.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering the question has expired. Senator Dastyari, a supplementary question.
I refer the Minister to further evidence in the Senate report by retired Commodore Paul Greenfield, who said, and I quote, "There does not have to be a capability gap if we get on with it now." Minister, why won't the government listen to the experts and get on with a competitive tender process, including a project definition study, immediately?
Minister.
Mr President, what an absolute audacity from an opposition senator to raise the prospect of, and I quote, "if we get on with it now." What happened during the 6 years of the previous Australian Labor Party government? Absolutely nothing. They never got on with anything other than raising the debt. So, Mr President, for Senator Dastyari to seek to come into this place and assert that we as a government should get on with it, the simple fact is, as Senator Johnston said earlier in a question time, we were left with a blank sheet of paper in relation to this project. We had to start from scratch. And in starting from scratch in the past 12 months, we have sought to do everything we possibly can to ensure that our nation's defences are protected and that we get best value for money. What an audacity to say to get on with it. We actually
Thank you,
are
Minister.
the
The
Labor
time for
Party
answering the question has expired. Senator Dastiario, final